Hi everyone, welcome back to Kidding Around. My name is Melanie Smith, and I think it is wonderful that you are here with me today on another Wanderlust Wednesday. Today we will be traveling to the country of Scotland, and while we're there we will make our very own tartan pattern and also be able to put that into our very own kilt. Before we do that though, if you like what you're seeing here and want to follow along with all of Kidding Around's videos, please make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Below each video, click the thumbs up. And also, if you really like what we're doing here, please share us with your friends. Thank you so much. All right, well, today, as I mentioned, we are going to be traveling to the country of Scotland. The reason that I picked to travel to Scotland today is because, according to my Holiday a Day calendar, today is International Bagpipe Day. Do you know what a bagpipe is? Have you heard it before? Here, we're going to listen to just a little snippet of some bagpipe music. Isn't that an interesting sound? The bagpipes make that sound using enclosed reeds that are fed from a bag of air inside the instrument. I bet you will never mistake the sound of another instrument for the sound of the bagpipes. I have to say I love the bagpipes and I love listening to the music made by bagpipes, and I'm really excited to travel to Scotland with you where the bagpipes are a common everyday thing. All right, so let's pack our suitcases and hop on that plane and we will head to Scotland. Scotland is a part of the United Kingdom. It borders England and is surrounded on all the other sides by water. It's surrounded by the Atlantic Ocean, the North Sea, and the Irish Sea. The country of Scotland includes more than 790 islands. If you were to travel to Scotland, the climate that you would experience would depend a little bit on where you were in the country. In general, Scotland has mild winters and cool and wet summers, but the rainfall varies wildly. It depends on where you are, how much rain you get. If you're in the Western Highlands, you might get up to about 120 inches of rain per year, which is quite a bit. But if you were in the lowlands, you might only experience 30 inches annually. And snow, if you're in the lowlands, is not very common. But if you're higher up in those highlands, you would definitely expect snow in the winter. There are several interesting animals that you would find in Scotland. You would see many populations of seals along the water's edge and nesting grounds for many seabirds such as gannets. And it would not be surprising at all if you were to see a golden eagle if you were in Scotland. As for the population, Edinburgh is the capital of the country of Scotland, but the largest city is Glasgow. And nearly a quarter of the entire population of Scotland lives in and around Glasgow. As I mentioned, Scotland has numerous islands, but only the larger and more accessible ones are inhabited. It's estimated that only about 90 of those 790 islands have people living on them. There are many languages that you might hear if you travel to Scotland, but only 3 are officially recognized. Those 3 are English, Scots, and Scottish Gaelic. If you're curious about what most people do in Scotland, you would find a large percentage of people are involved in shipbuilding, coal mining, in the steel industries, and in the petroleum-related industries too. A large part of Scotland's culture involves music, and this is where we get back to talking about our bagpipes. Scotland is known for the famous traditional instrument, the Great Highland Bagpipe. And many centuries ago, Scottish warriors played the bagpipes to intimidate their enemies. I don't think the bagpipes are played for the same reason today, but they are definitely a huge part of Scotland's culture. As for the food that you could taste in Scotland, you would find pretty standard European fare: meat, dairy products, fish, fruit, and vegetables. Scotland, though, has a high reliance on simplicity and a lack of spices from abroad. This is because historically spices were very rare and very expensive to get in Scotland. One food, though, that is synonymous with Scotland that I haven't yet mentioned is haggis. Haggis is Scotland's national dish, and it consists of the lungs, heart, and liver of a sheep, mixed with onions, stock, and spices, and it is cooked and served inside the sheep's stomach. So it is not for the faint-hearted, but if you went to Scotland, you absolutely would have to try it, don't you think? The sports that you might find being played in Scotland are soccer or rugby or cricket or golf. You might also see curling, which you might recognize from the Olympic Games. It's a sport played on the ice. And you might also see shinty played in Scotland, which is a sport sort of like a type of field hockey. It definitely has its differences, but you might see it and think of field hockey. And the most famous type of sports that you would find in Scotland are the Highland Games. The Highland Games are the world's best celebration of Celtic culture. They began in the 11th century, and the games include amazing events such as the caber toss, where men throw huge wooden logs as far as they can. There's also the stone put, the Scottish hammer throw, and even a haggis hurling event. So if you didn't like that haggis that you tasted, you could go to the Highland Games and hurl it. And a couple other random facts that you might not know about Scotland, but are interesting nonetheless. The national animal is the unicorn. In Celtic mythology, the unicorn symbolizes innocence and joy as well as power. And the other mythical creature associated with Scotland that you might have heard of is the Loch Ness Monster. Many travelers have dredged the loch for the mysterious beast, but as of yet, no evidence of her existence has been found. All right, well, why don't we go ahead and move on to two final things that I know a lot of people associate with Scotland. The first one is the kilt. So the kilt is a type of traditional clothing that many men might wear in Scotland. This doesn't mean that all men wear kilts, but definitely at a traditional festival like the Highland Games, you would see many, many kilts being worn. The other thing that is strongly associated with Scotland is the pattern on these kilts. It is known as a tartan, and it is a pattern consisting of crisscrossed horizontal and vertical bands in multiple colors. The patterns that make up those tartans are unique to groups throughout Scotland. Those groups are known as clans, and they're really made up of communities or families. So I thought it would be very fun for you today to make your own tartan to represent your community or your family, and then make it into a kilt. So in order to do this, you will need a few supplies. You will need one large piece of construction paper in whatever color you want that will serve as the main color of your tartan and the main color of your kilt. If you don't have one of these super large pieces of construction paper, you can tape two pieces of regular size construction paper together to get this same size. In addition to that, you will also need another either large piece of construction paper or two pieces of small construction paper in the color of black. I didn't have large black construction paper, so I will be using two pieces of regular size construction paper. You will also need a small piece of aluminum foil, and then you will need the paint colors. This is acrylic paint. You will need the colors that you would like in your tartan. And then, of course, with paint comes a paintbrush, a paint palette, water, and paper towels. And then you will also, for this project, need a stapler, a glue stick, and a pair of scissors. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing that we are going to do is pull our large piece of construction paper that we want to be our main color of our kilt and our tartan. We're going to put that in front of us, and then we are going to put our paint on it in the pattern of our tartan. So I am going to be using rather traditional colors here for Scotland, but of course you can use any colors that you like to be in your tartan. So I'm going to be using blue, green, black, and white, and then I am going to paint on some lines on my tartan, or on this paper, to make it my tartan. So these are very easy to do. You get to decide where you want them, but the only thing is, if you want them to be rather traditionally Scottish, you should make them straight across the paper in horizontal and vertical lines. So I am going to paint a long line here of blue, and you can see that I kind of run out of paint along the way, but that's okay. I just go back to my paint palette and add some more. And then I am going to paint another one here. Of course, this is completely up to you. You get to decide where you put these lines. You get to decide what colors you want. You get to decide it all. And remember, as you're painting this, you're going to be representing your group, your community, or your family. So you can choose, favorite colors of people in your family. You can choose your favorite colors. It's up to you. And of course, if you don't want to be as traditional as I am, you certainly can make your lines go diagonally or zigzag, or you could put polka dots on here. It is all up to you. But I am going to just here put on some blue lines. Kind of looks like I'm playing tic-tac-toe right now, doesn't it? All right, so I think I'm probably done with the blue for now. And now I am going to go in and add some green into my tartan pattern. I don't really have any rhyme or reason to this, I have to say, but you certainly can put as much meaning into this as you would like. I just really like the plaid effect, so I am going very traditional, and so that's why I'm doing this the way I am. But I would love to see all of the different designs that you make on your tartans. Okay, so there we go. I have my green on. Now, oh, you know what? I'm going to put a big green stripe here, not quite in the middle, but close to the middle. You can decide if you want your design to be symmetric, that means the same on both sides, or asymmetric, which this green line here that I'm painting right now makes this design asymmetric from the top to the bottom because it doesn't have a partner on the other side. All right, I think I have enough green in here too. So now I'm going to put some white and blue on my design. Let's see, I'll put a white stripe down here. And you can vary the thicknesses too if you would like. It does not have to be just the thickness of your paintbrush. You can make it thicker, or you can make your paintbrush, you can use it on the side, which will make your lines be thinner. I'm going to make a thicker line here. But remember, you do what you want to do on your tartan. It is unique to you and your family and your circumstances. So just feel free to make design changes or choices however you want. All right, so you can see here I've made a thicker white line. And I am not going to put a white line on the other side. I kind of like being asymmetric. I'm going to put a white line across down here. Isn't it fun to make these patterns? Who knew it was so easy to make this plaid type pattern, right? It's just lines. Isn't that interesting? All right, there we go. All right, I think I like the white that I have on here. So now I am going to use some black, and I will finish off my tartan. I'm going to put a line down here, close to the middle, but not quite in the middle, right? All right, and then I am going to put one more black line right here, right next to this green. And you can see that my colors are mixing a little bit. That's because I haven't waited for my colors to dry in between my painting of different colors. It's up to you if you want to kind of have that mixing effect, or if you want to wait. You certainly could wait for your colors to dry before you go on to the next one. All right, and now I'm going to do one final one. I think I'll do a black one right here next to this blue. And then I think that I am going to say that my tartan is complete. All right, there we go. So now at this point, you do need to wait for this to dry. We're going to be folding this up, and so you definitely don't want to be folding wet paint. So at this point, we're going to wait, and then I will meet you back here with a completely dry tartan in just a few minutes. All right, see you soon. All right, I am back with my dry tartan, and I am ready to make it into my kilt. I have put my painting supplies aside. I will need these in a little bit, but I don't need them for this step, so I've put them out of the way so I don't accidentally knock something over. And now I am going to start working on the waistband of this kilt, so this black strip. So you can do this many different ways, and some of it depends on the paper and the supplies that you have. If you have a piece of paper that is the exact same size as the background of your kilt, you can simply just cut a black strip just right across the edge of that and use that as your waistband. Because I don't have a large piece of black paper on hand, I am going to cut two pieces that will combine to make one strip. So to do that, I folded my black piece of paper in half the long way, so like a hot dog, and then I am going to cut on the folded side. If you are doing this along with me, you can cut anywhere that you would like to. You can cut right on the fold, or you can do like I'm going to do and cut a little bit in from the fold. This just makes my waistband just a little bit narrower, which I think I'm going to like better for my kilt. So this little piece that was folded, I'll just put aside. Maybe I can use that in another project. But the reason that I folded it before I cut it was so that I would get two pieces that were exactly the same width. So that way they will match up very well. All right, so once I have my two pieces cut, or if you have your one piece cut, you can take your glue stick and just glue along those edges and then put that down corner to corner on top of your tartan. So I just went clear to the corner there, and I'm sticking that down, and then I will do that with the other piece as well. All right, so I'm gluing along the edges. That's the best place to glue. It'll stick the best. And then up in the other corner, and then as you look at it, you will see that I have one waistband. Here, I'm just going to kind of modify that just a little bit. All right, so there we go. No matter how you got your waistband, now that you have your waistband, you can work on your belt buckle. And this is where the foil comes in. So this foil piece, I am going to cut into an oval to make my belt buckle. Or maybe it's not actually a belt buckle, but just the main center part of the waistband. Now, I am freehanding this, and I would highly encourage you to do so as well. There is nothing about this that has to be exactly perfect, and there is something just very freeing about cutting and not following a line. So I am just cutting a rough oval here, and there we go. I am going to use that as the center of my waistband. So then I will flip it over, and you can decide if you want the super shiny side facing you or kind of the duller side facing you. And then you will glue the opposite side. So I glued the very, very shiny side so that I have that kind of duller side right there in the middle. And there we go. Now, we are almost done, but we need to make this look like a kilt. Kilts have pleats in them, these folds in them. And so we are going to do that we're going to do that on ours to make it look a little bit more official. So to do that, you are going to turn your tartan piece so that the short side is in front of you, and then you are going to very carefully fold your paper like a fan. So you fold about an inch strip in, and then you can flip it over, and then you fold again about that same inch strip. And then you're going to flip your paper, and then you can fold again. You can do this as many times as you want. I think I'm going to stick with 3 folds, and then I'm going to do that on the other side as well. So I fold in about 1 inch, and then I'm going to flip it, and I'm going to fold again in about that same inch, and then I will do that one more time. All right, so now I have my pleats, and I have one final thing to add before I actually complete this, and that is this pouch in the front. Did you notice this pouch? Here, this way you can see it a little bit. So this pouch is called a sporran, and it is a place where men who are wearing kilts can keep things like their wallet or anything that they need to keep close to them. Kilts don't have pockets, so this is a great place for them to be able to keep their car keys and their wallet and things like that. So we are going to go ahead and make a pouch. So you can either use the scraps. If you had a big, large piece of black paper, you can use your leftover scraps to make your sporran, or you can use another black piece of paper to make your sporran. And I am going to cut something kind of like I did with this buckle in front, and I am going to cut an oval freehand. You can draw it first if you would like to, but I think you should try to cut it without drawing it first. There's just something so exciting about it. All right, so now I have another oval there. This is the sporran, the pouch that people who wear kilts usually wear, and it goes in the middle. So I'm going to put it right there, and then I am going to paint the chain or the strap that holds that sporran on, and then I will paint some decoration on the sporran as well. Quite often sporrans have tassels on them, so I'm going to be adding that detail with paint too. Okay, so now I am going to take my paintbrush that I see still has a lot of black in it. So I really scrubbed it on the bottom of the jar or the water container. And then I'm going to dry it off to make sure that I don't have too much water in my paint. And I will put over my paint. I'm going to be using white. I'm going to add just a little bit more white. And I am going to simply paint. I am going to paint, I guess, from about this center pleat. That's where I'm going to imagine that chain or that strap coming around that will hold this person's sporran. And then I will do that on the other side too. And I'm going to try to make this symmetrical. So I'm going to go to that center pleat again. And then while that's drying, I'm going to go ahead and paint in some decoration on this sporran. And I am just going to paint kind of a line over the top. And I'll try to be very careful. You know, you might want to paint this knot on your kilt, on top of your kilt, because if you accidentally go over, you don't want to paint on your kilt or on your tartan. So you might paint this on a separate piece of surface protection, but I'm living dangerously today. All right, and then I'm going to draw, or I'm going to paint in these little tassel holders, and then I'm going to just put in, you know, some very minimalistic tassels right here. And there we go. All right, so while this is drying, I'm going to set it aside. I'll set it over here so if I had paint on the back, it doesn't get on my surface. And then I am going to take my stapler and I am going to staple in these pleats to make this, well, pleated look. So you can decide how much of the pleat you want to staple in. So you could staple in 2 like that, or you could staple in 3 in like that. You can see how the difference, you can decide if you wanted to staple this much paper together or if you wanted to staple this much. I think I'm going to go for the smaller amount, and I am going to just put my stapler right there and staple, and then I will do it on the other side as well. And there we go. Now you can see we definitely have a great shape to our kilt. And then the final piece that you are going to do, once your sporran is dry, you are going to glue on the sporin to your kilt. Now, normally I would say you're supposed to glue on the smaller piece of paper, which means that I should be gluing on the sporin, but I'm not quite positive that the paint is dry yet, so I am going to just put a little bit of glue where the sporin will go on my kilt, and then I will take the sporin and I will place that on top of the glue. Now, as I press it down, I'm being very careful not to accidentally touch that paint because I don't know for sure that it's dry yet. It looks pretty dry, but I don't think it's completely dry, and I don't want to accidentally smear my paint. All right, well then, at that point, you are finished, and you have your fun tartan that's unique to you and your community, and you also have your fun kilt as well. I would love to see pictures of your tartans and your kilts. Please ask a grown-up to take a picture of those and put that on our Facebook page. I can't wait to see your creativity and something that you feel represents you and your community. Well, thank you so much for joining me today in traveling to Scotland. I look forward to seeing you on Friday. We'll be talking about a fun film on Friday. I can't wait to see you then. But until then, thanks so much for joining me for this one. Thanks so much for kidding around with me. I will see you next time.